Welcome to AZ English Fluency, where we guide you on your complete journey from A to Z. Hello, everyone. I'm Olivia. Today, we are stepping back from the specific words and grammar rules to explore something far more powerful. We are going to explore the philosophy that underpins all successful learning in any field. We are here to talk about the quiet, the elegant, the unstoppable force of consistency. By the end of our time together today, you will not only understand, but truly believe in three key ideas that I believe will fundamentally change the way you approach your English learning journey. First, you will understand the science of why your brain actually prefers small, daily actions over long, exhausting, and infrequent study sessions. We will look at the neurology behind learning. Second, you will have a clear, simple framework for designing a 15-minute daily practice that you can actually stick to, even on your busiest days. A plan that is realistic, balanced, and incredibly effective. And third, and perhaps most importantly, you will learn how the simple act of consistency transforms you. It moves you from being someone who studies English into someone who truly is an English speaker. It is a shift in identity. If you are ready to stop the frustrating cycle of starting and stopping and instead build a learning system that lasts a lifetime, I invite you to subscribe to the channel right now. Let's embark on this journey to sustainable fluency together. Let's begin by addressing a very common and very flawed approach to learning. I call it the myth of the marathon session. Does this sound familiar to you? You wake up on a Saturday morning filled with a burst of motivation. You tell yourself, today is the day. Today, I will finally make progress in my English. You clear your schedule, you make a big cup of coffee, and you sit down for a 3-hour study session. For 3 hours, you push yourself. You study grammar rules, you memorize long lists of vocabulary. And at the end, you feel exhausted, but you also feel accomplished. But then Sunday comes, and you are too tired to even think about English. Monday is busy with work. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday pass by in a blur, and by Friday, you feel a sense of guilt, a sense that you have fallen behind. So the cycle begins again. This model of learning, based on intense but infrequent bursts of effort, is something that many of us have been taught. But I am here to tell you that it is a recipe for failure. This model fails for 3 main reasons. First, it inevitably leads to burnout. The human brain is not designed for that kind of prolonged, intense focus on a single difficult task. Second, it creates a negative psychological association with learning. English becomes that hard thing you have to do on the weekend rather than a pleasant, integrated part of your daily life. And third, and most critically, it is fundamentally at odds with how our brains form strong, long-term memories.
Think of fluency as a strong, beautiful brick wall. You cannot build that wall by trying to lay all 1,000 bricks in one exhausting, painful day. The mortar will not set properly. The lines will be uneven. The wall itself will be weak and unstable. True, lasting strength comes from a different process. It comes from laying a few bricks perfectly every single day, one day at a time. That is how a masterpiece is built, slowly, deliberately, and consistently. So if the marathon session doesn't work, what does? The answer lies in the science of what I call the drip effect. It's the idea that small, consistent inputs are far more powerful than large, infrequent ones. Let's look at the science behind why consistency always wins. The first principle is neuroplasticity. This is just a scientific term for the brain's amazing ability to change and reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Think of the English part of your brain as a network of tiny paths in a forest. When you first learn a new word, you create a very thin new path. If you don't walk down that path again for a week, it will quickly become overgrown and disappear. But if you walk down that same path every single day, even for just a few minutes, the path becomes wider. It becomes clearer. It becomes a well-worn trail and eventually a highway. It's not about the intensity of the walk, it's about the frequency. Every time you practice for 15 minutes, you're strengthening the English pathways in your brain, making them faster, more efficient, and more automatic.
The second principle is the compound effect. This is a mathematical reality that small, seemingly insignificant efforts compound over time into extraordinary results. A 15-minute daily habit might not feel like much on any given day. It can feel like you are making no progress. But let's do the math. 15 minutes a day is 105 minutes a week. That is over 90 hours of focused, consistent practice in a single year. Compare that to the person who studies for 3 hours one weekend and then does nothing for the next 3 weeks. The consistent person will always achieve more. It is a small, daily investment that yields enormous long-term returns. And the third principle is the psychology of habit formation. What is the hardest part of any difficult task? It is starting. The mental energy, the willpower required to start a 3-hour study session is huge. It is so big that we often procrastinate. We put it off. We say, I'll do it tomorrow. But the mental energy required to start a 15-minute session is tiny. It's easy. It's manageable. Consistency works because it makes starting easy. And when starting is easy, you are far more likely to do it. So what does this perfect 15-minute daily ritual look like? How do we take this philosophy and turn it into a practical, actionable plan? It is not about doing one thing for 15 minutes. It is about creating a balanced workout for your brain that covers all the key skills. I call it the Power of 3 framework. It has 3 simple 5-minute stages. The first 5 minutes are for active input. I call this the spark. This is about absorbing high-quality, authentic English. It is not about studying a textbook. It is about immersing yourself. In these 5 minutes, you could listen to one song in English and read the lyrics as you listen. You could watch a short 2-minute TED Talk on a topic you find interesting. You could read one page of a book that you enjoy. The goal here is simple: to expose your brain to the natural rhythm, vocabulary, and melody of the language. The next 5 minutes are for active recall. I call this the connection. This is where real learning happens. Now, you must process what you just absorbed. If you listen to a song, pause and in your mind or in a notebook, try to summarize what the song was about in simple English. If you watched a talk, what was the speaker's main point? If you read a page, what was the most important event? This step is what moves information from your fragile short-term memory into your more robust long-term memory. It is the act of pulling the information out of your brain that tells your brain, hey, this is important, keep it. The final 5 minutes are for active output. I call this the voice. This is the most crucial step of all for fluency. You must produce language. You must create. Take the summary that you just formed in your mind and now speak it out loud, even if you are alone, even if it's just a whisper. Describe an object in your room in English for 1 minute. Write 3 sentences in a journal about your day. This final step connects your thinking brain to your speaking mouth and your writing hand. It is the step that turns passive knowledge into an active, usable skill. Input, recall, output, 5 minutes each. That is your balanced daily workout. When you commit to this small daily action, something profound begins to happen. It's a change that goes far beyond just vocabulary and grammar. It is a change in your identity. When you practice every single day, even for just 15 minutes, you are not just learning English. You are casting a vote for a new version of yourself. The person who spends 15 minutes with English every single morning without fail is no longer just someone who is trying to learn English. They are, by the very definition of their actions, an English speaker. They are a person who engages with the English language daily. This identity shift is the true key to unlocking confidence. When you see yourself as an English speaker, you begin to act like one. You become more willing to take risks. You become less afraid of making mistakes. Your relationship with the language transforms from one of struggle and study into one of natural, effortless being. You are not trying anymore. You just are. So we can see that fluency is not an event. It is not a destination that you arrive at after a long, grueling marathon of study. It is a state that you cultivate. It is a quiet confidence that you build through this simple, elegant, and powerful philosophy of consistency. Fluency is the sum of your small daily promises to yourself. It is the result of the hundreds of times you chose to show up for just 15 minutes. And so, my question to you as we conclude our time together is this. What is the one small 15-minute action you will commit to for the next 7 days? It does not have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Perhaps you will listen to a podcast on your morning commute, or you will write 3 sentences in a journal before you go to bed. Choose one thing. Make it specific. Share your commitment in the comments below. Let's declare our intentions. Let's hold each other accountable on this beautiful, consistent journey.
Thank you for sharing this time with me, for thinking deeply about not just what you learn, but how you learn. If this message resonated with you, please ensure you are subscribed to AZ English Fluency, where we will continue to guide you on your complete journey from A to Z. Until next time, be consistent, be patient with yourself, and happy learning.